I'm Subjit Roy, welcoming you to Moja for Industry post-budget CEOs Roundtable on medical devices industry. This session is supported by the Association of Indian Medical Device Industry, that is IMED. Today in this Moja for Industry CEOs Roundtable, experts from medical devices manufacturing fraternity will analyze the budget announcements and their probable impact on the Indian medical devices industry. I take this opportunity to introduce you the CEOs who are going to share their thoughts during today's session. We have with us today Mr. Rajiv Nath, Managing Director, Hindustan Syringes and Medical Devices Limited. Welcome, sir.
Namaskar.
Then we have Mr. Gaurav Agarwal, Managing Director, Innovation Imaging Technologies Private Limited, that is IITPL. Welcome, Gaurav.
Thank you so much.
And Mr. Avinav Thakur, who is the Managing Director of Accurex Biomedical Private Limited. Welcome, Avinav. Now to take the session forward, I would like to invite the moderator of the session, Dr. Rajiv Chiba.
Thank you very much, Shubhajit. A warm welcome to all the three MDs, Mr. Nath, Gauravji, and Abhinavji. I hope today's session will be something which will be very enriching and would also be able to look at how the union budget had a few hits and a few misses, and what would the medical device industry look at when it unfolds further. I'll first go to Abhinav. Abhinav, as the industry expected, the Honorable FM addressed inadequacies in the healthcare infrastructure. As a leading company from a domestic sector, your reading of the budget, especially since experts have been propagating the need to increase healthcare budget and lowering of the GST.
Right. Thank you, Rajiv, for these excellent questions. As far as the budget is, we all have been knowing for so many years, right? India, in terms of healthcare spending, as a percentage of GDP, we are way lower than a lot of comparable countries. We can be compared to a lot of sub-Saharan countries in terms of GDP spending on healthcare, especially when we go into the per capita GDP on healthcare. And it's very well known, you cannot have a healthy economy without a healthy population. So definitely we need to increase more spend on healthcare as a percentage of our GDP. Coming to the second part, as GST, it is very unfortunate that when GST was rolled out, we still have 18% GST on medical equipment, that is our diagnostic instruments, etc., in the IVD field. And 18% GST is there on the equipment, and there's 12% GST on the reagents, the consumables. I think there should be made equal, and there should be 12% GST on the equipment, on the instruments, the analyzers.
Completely a valid point. In fact, we've been saying it in various forums. Health is not a luxury product, so why not look at it? But do you think that as India inches to become the NCD capital of the world, a need for R&D and data simulation could be something that can be centralized? It can assist to create a human demographic profile, as you said right away, and then move towards digital health systems rather than leapfrogging it from there itself.
So with this digital health coming on board and labs going online and registering there, hospitals, labs registering there, I think it will be a great way for the electronic records to get transferred between different labs, for doctors to have access to it, to the patients to have access to it. And it will just create a registrar of the labs, so that today, if a lab is not giving the right report, or a lab is doing excellent, is following all the QC protocols, this information will be easily available, which is absent today. Right, so there definitely needs to be a database of the healthcare providers, which this initiative is going to drive. And in terms of mental health, we know that there's a big scarcity in our country of psychiatrists, right? And I heard numbers like, in the entire country, there are only like 10,000 or 15,000 psychiatrists for such a large country. So the access can be provided only through telemedicine in mental health. So I think that's a great initiative, and especially with COVID, the statistics say there's an increase of 35% in mental health disorders like anxiety, depression, etc.
Absolutely.
As India as total, right, our entire, as part of our GDP, R&D spend is only 0.7%. And when you come to per capita, it is at $43. We rank number 67 in the world in terms of R&D spend. And that leads to lower innovation and that leads to more price competition if you're not innovative. So definitely that is something I really missed in this budget.
Thank you, Abhinav. I'll move to Gaurav right now. And Gaurav, however, do you see this budget panning into healthcare, especially since only a handful of startups and MSMEs could have survived over the last 2 years of the pandemic? So your views on that?
Speaking specifically about startups in the health tech, health delivery space, there are about 5,000 registered startups in the country today in the health tech space. And the average revenue size of each of these is about $3 million or below, less than $3 million. So I think the challenge is not of the number of startups. I mean, the pandemic itself, there has been an increase of about 1,400 startups in the last 2 years in the health tech space. So there is a lot of interest in the entrepreneurial engineers in starting a venture in this industry. But the issue is government's guidance on regulatory support, on CapEx and funding support, and also in providing them the right guidance for them to go global. An economy like us, which is 80% dependent on imports, 46,000 crore of import bill, having only 50 manufacturers over the size of 100 crores is a huge disservice to the nation, in my opinion. And I think this is where the budget could have done a lot more than it has dished out. The other thing that I would like to point out is that in our industry, health tech industry, there's high incubation time, very short product life cycles, longer go-to-market strategies, high entry barriers, especially regulatory barriers. And these factors combined, these macroeconomic factors make health tech one of the most challenging areas to have a startup in. And I think government providing or bolstering support through economic policies, through the right fiscal support and through right R&D incentives would have been a huge welcome move. I sincerely hope that along with that, if they had just made one announcement that on the lines of UP announcing that it will have one hospital per district, every single state in the country will have a medical college per district. I think that would completely change the shape of healthcare delivery in the country. Angioplasty, you're well aware of angioplasty. Cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer in the country. Now, a large part of the reason for this huge cardiac mortality is that out of 750 odd districts in the country, only 240 districts have the availability of a cath lab. So I think it's about time that we woke up and smelled coffee on the extremely large mortality rates on cardiovascular disease. And one of the things that can be done is, I don't know whether this 1 lakh crore could be used, but in addition to National Digital Health Mission, I think there is need to improve CapEx spending on tertiary healthcare infrastructure building also.
Coming to Mr. Nath, 2 years back, IMED was the go-to association when the government wanted to really ramp up production in the medical devices sector, and we presented a huge plan of action there. 2 years down the line, there's been some momentum, but largely, if we look at this year's budget, that has really not uphill to what it was 2 years back. So, and in fact, in a press note issued by the Association of Medical Devices Industry, you had expressed deep disappointment and anguish over the union budget, giving cold shoulder again to the medtech sector and nothing laudable for the healthcare. What were your specific asks and how do you see it from here onwards, Mr. Nath?
We are strong believers in Make in India, and our expectations to the government was, we don't believe in subsidies. We don't believe in being given crutches for temporary short periods of time by taxes or whatever. It doesn't really help us in the long term. We have to be globally competitive. And here only what we had thought was that let us have an export-linked incentive scheme. The government has come out with a production-linked incentive scheme. The PLI scheme was linked to sophisticated medical devices which were required or a focal point pre-COVID. Where we can produce, where we can grow, we asked for an export-linked incentive. What does that mean? That where we have shown competence to be globally competitive, we produce enough for India and we can produce for the world. Over there, give us an import duty increase over there. What is the PLI scheme? PLI scheme is giving you 5% increase in sales in certain categories of medical devices. So it's a roundabout way. We are saying that instead of giving us a PLI, give us an export linked incentive, whereby when we are exporting more than 100 crore rupees in a particular HS code, you kindly increase the customs duty to 15% from the existing 10%. And where the exports are between 10 crores and 100 crores, kindly increase the custom duty to 10% from the current 5% or 7.5%. We had only asked for 57 HS codes to be tinkered with out of 150 which are there for medical devices. Out of 57, are you aware that 20 HS codes have got zero duty? Crutches, wheelchairs, zero duty. I mean, it's amazing for me what we are importing from China. Our imports from China went up by 75%, and when I pulled out the numbers, I was myself quite taken aback that Kamal hai India mein we don't even have this capability. So, digital thermometers, last year we exported 1100 crore rupees. This could have been made in the country. Oxygen therapy, we imported 300 crore rupees, could have been made in the country. Diagnostic instruments, 400 crore rupees. BP instruments, 172 crore rupees. A simple thing like a personal weighing scale to know my weight. The imports are nearly 100 crore rupees. These are things which can easily be made in the country. But our people are not able to compete with the Chinese, and we prefer to import.
When we talk about this union budget, and since our topic says hits and misses, what are the two misses and the two hits that could have made a difference, not only for this budget, but when we look at India inching at 100? Mr. Nath, starting with you.
Which I would say is very much the biggest problem I hear from my membership is regarding payments from the government.
Absolutely.
So the 75% availability of payment on in presentation of the invoice is a good starting point. So I hope it will be 90%, but it's a 75% is a good starting point. Cash flow is the biggest problem for entrepreneurs. That's the biggest a plus point I find. The second is in terms of quality healthcare. We need to be paid for higher quality. You just can't be matching the L1 price and ask the high quality manufacturer to become the lowest priced manufacturer. It's not possible. We have to be competitive by quality. Bring a structure into place now, clearly stated policy, whereby the government procurement will be done based on a formula which will be taking into account quality is definitely very welcome. These are the two biggest gains I found as the budget goes. The misses, of course, has been that the custom duty has been reduced. The exemptions which were to be removed and been announced in the last year's budget as well as this year's budget by the FM, she realizes that many exemptions are being anti-make in India and they need to be going away. But the exemptions have not gone away. In fact, today only I'm just drafting a letter to send to the FM, whereby again I'm listing nearly 2 sheets of exemptions which need to go away. So that has been the biggest miss, I would say, coming forward. And in the case of IVD instrumentation and certain products like sanitizers, these are not luxury products. Why have 18% GST? Keep it a medium 12%. We're not asking for 0. We don't want 0. We don't even want 5. But keep 12% for medical devices across the board. Thanks.
Abhinav, if I come to you, same questions.
Right. So I think the biggest hit was the initiative to go on digital health. Right. So again, the mental health, because we've seen during COVID, there's an increase of 35% in mental health, and specifically for the diagnostic industry. We are from the Association of Diagnostic Manufacturers of India, and we were approached by the government on the rationalization in the list 3 and list 4 exemptions, which have been there for the last 20 years and they have not been changed. But a lot of technology has changed, a lot of manufacturing has started in the country. So it's a very good to note that in 3 product categories that we have now sufficient capacity in the country, which has also been mentioned in the public procurement order, where we are getting preference in the public procurement order. These products have been moved from list 4 to list 3, which means the import duty on these products has increased from nil, 0% to 5%. Misses in terms of it, I resonate with what Mr. Nath said. It's not a luxury item, right? Sanitizers. Why are you keeping GST at 18% sanitizers? Diagnostic instruments, analyzers. Why is it 18%? The reagents The consumables are 12%. What's the logic of keeping it 18% on the capital equipment, where the cost of the equipment is much higher? GST should have been rationalized down to 12%, and R&D incentives should definitely be given to make our industry more innovative, more competitive, having a competitive advantage to not only do import substitution, but to also export.
Gaurav, same questions, 2 hits, 2 misses.
Yeah, so very quickly, I think one clear hit is the creation of the national digital health ecosystem. I mean, creating a national health stack, I believe, will make healthcare delivery more efficient, accessible, affordable, inclusive, and I think safer. The tax exemption period that has been increased by a year for startups, and even the capital gains exemption that has been increased by a year, is a welcome move for a lot of startups. Because of the pandemic, a lot of these startups would not be able to gain the full benefit of this scheme. 2 misses, very clearly inability to raise healthcare as percentage of GDP to 2.5% at least is a clear miss. The second miss that I see is absence of any export and innovation or R&D related incentives.
No, these are very valid ones. In fact, I also enlist one, hit which I felt was something which the government looked very well into, apart from the ones that all three of you elucidated, was the ease of doing business and ease of compliance. So they've really looked at it from a new angle. I do hope that as the year unfolds and as the next couple of years look at it, we'll be able to see more ease of doing business and ease of compliance, especially when it's between the center and the states. So in fact, the state allocation is also something which is very good. Positively, if the states look at allocating that 1 lakh crores into, also healthcare and infrastructure development in the healthcare sector itself. But yes, we're almost at the fag end of the entire segment today, and we've had some very good discussions and very healthy discussions. I think all points are pretty valid, whether they came from Abhinav, Gaurav, and exceptionally from Rajiv Nath ji. One thing which everyone here jointly agrees is that India is really going to celebrate its 100th year when we become really, really Atmanirbhar.
For more updates, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon.